Hello, everyone. This is Bible Perspective. I am Brother Bolin. Thank you all for joining me. This is the channel where we analyze current events from a biblical and prophetic point of view. Well, I've just discovered that there is an individual, I think a leader of the Satanic Temple in Pennsylvania, that wants to host a Satan's club or Satan's program, I believe, at the end of the school sessions. He basically wants to host a satanic program, something after the end of the school session. Yeah, you heard that right. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to read just a small portion of this article here because I want to explain to you that this individual leader of this Satanic Temple basically believes and says that he has a constitutional right to do this. Now, before I go any further, he has a valid argument right there. Now, before anybody crucify me for saying that, we're going to get into this and I'm going to explain to you both the political side and the spiritual side. So we have both sides of the token because the enemy knows how to work that. He knows how to work the system. Okay. After all, it is his system. So let's get into this. So the title of this article is After School Satan. Well, no, that's not the title. Forgive me. I'm sorry. The title of the article is Satanic Temple Planning to Host Satan Club on Back to School Night. That's what it is. Satan Club on Back to School Night. It says the leader of the Satanic Temple says the First Amendment protects his organization's right to host a back to school event at a Pennsylvania high school. The after-school Satan Club at Northern High School in Dillsburg will be allowed to meet after approval by officials with the Northern York County School District. So, without going into too much detail there, he has a valid point. Excuse me. He has a valid argument. From a constitutional point of view, and from the Bill of Rights, he has a right to do that. I know that sounds odd and strange in the minds of a lot of Christians that may be watching this video, but from a constitutional point of view, he has the right to do that. He has the right to express his religion. Now, if you read further on into that article, and I'm going to leave a link to it in the description box below, I'm going to leave the website to it in the description box below, www.christianpost.com, and you can look up the title of that article and read the entire article for your own. But the article goes on to talk about how that if it would be wrong, basically, individual argues it would be wrong for that school to host a prayer meeting in the name of God or in the name of Jesus Christ in the school, and yet forbid this Satanic Temple, this satanic group, to do the same thing, to have a meeting or a club. So he has a valid argument right there, right? So from a political point of view, he has a valid point. Technically speaking, he has a right to express his religious views. And it's hard to argue that. Now, I'm gonna do a little history here. When you look at that, at something like this, you say, well, man, how could this be? You know, Christians, we tend to go into the default mode and say, oh my goodness, he preaches Satan, he preaches this, that, and the other. Let me explain something to you about, first of all, let me go back a little bit in history. Okay. In the early history of America, when I mean by the early history of America, I mean, I'd say after the founding of America in 1776 and onward until like the early 1900s, a significant amount of the schools and institutions in America were Christian. Yes, they were Christian. And in just about every school, not all, but in just about every school in America, they usually always started off with prayer. The teacher would lead prayer, and then they would have I think they would read a Bible verse or whatever, a scripture. And they would literally teach the Bible in a lot of these schools, not only the K-12 schools, but also in the universities. They would teach the Bible in these schools. And so a lot of these schools were, at least if not Christian, they had a Christian base. So quite naturally, Satanists and people who were Satanists and into the occult probably would not have been like, well, you know what? I want to be able to host a satanic meeting or a satanic prayer in the schools after the end of the school session or whatever. They probably wouldn't have been so emboldened to do that. But now the school systems and institutions have been infiltrated and things have been changed. America has become increasingly more secular. And because of this secularization of America and American school systems, it's easier for non-Christian groups to make these bold statements. Okay, so that's the one thing. The other thing, too, is for those of us that are Christians that don't understand the occult and understand a lot of groups that are either Luciferian or satanic. First of all, we got to understand a few things. All satanic groups are not the same. Some are more extreme than others. Others are not. Some are more moderate. Satanists and people who are involved in the occult do not see Satan like you and I see Satan as Christians. When we as Christians see Satan, we see Satan as what the Bible defines him to be. The fallen angel, according to the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter, and the book of Ezekiel, the 28th chapter, as a fallen cherub who wanted to be God and wanted to be worshiped as God. He was jealous of God. He wanted to be worshiped as God, and God kicked him out of heaven. And a third of the angels followed him. He deceived a third of the angels, and they followed him. We all know the narrative. And that he is the God of this world. He's a fallen cherub. He's evil by nature. And all of these things, we all, as Christians, we all see Satan from that perspective. We see him as the bad guy defined from a scriptural point of view. Luciferians and Satanists and occultists do not see Satan that way. They see Satan as the good guy. Now you may say, wait a minute, what are you talking about, sir? This is the way they see him. I don't see him that way. I'm defining you the way they see him. They see Satan as the good guy. In fact, the word Lucifer, when you look at the word Lucifer means light bearer. And to many Luciferians and occultists and Satanists, they see Satan as the light bearer, the illuminator, the one that comes to give enlighten humanity and enlighten humanity in reference to their intellect to bring them up. They believe that the God of the Bible was trying to suppress mankind from becoming gods, from being enlightened. And they believe that the incident that happened in the Garden of Eden, where Satan in the form of the serpent tempted Eve to eat from the forbidden tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they believe, Satanists and occultists and Luciferians believe, that Satan was trying to set Adam and Eve and mankind free from the oppressiveness of God or Yahweh. That they believe that God was trying to keep Adam and Eve from being gods and being enlightened. And that Lucifer in the form of the serpent came to set them free. And when they ate from that tree, they were set free. The Luciferians and Satanists' interpretation of Adam and Eve's eyes being open was that their eyes was open to the true God, which was Lucifer. You see, for the Satanists and the Luciferians and the occultists, they believe that the desires that we as Christians believe are evil, such as fornication, adultery, theft, murder, and all the different sins that the Bible defines and that Jesus talked about in Matthew, the 15th chapter, when he said, out of the heart of man proceedeth evil thoughts and adulteries and murders and thefts and fornications. These are the things that defile the man. This is what Jesus said in Matthew, the 15th chapter, to the disciples and the crowds around them. But to the Luciferians and the Satanists and those involved in the occult, they don't see that. They see that as a natural part of who we are, and that you should be allowed to express that. And that Christianity, if they believe, was designed by the false god Yahweh in their eyesight to suppress those desires. And that Lucifer came to set mankind free to express those desires. You see, so when you have that worldview, it makes sense. When understanding that worldview makes sense of why someone would want to worship Satan, why someone would want to worship Lucifer. They're still deceived. They're still deceived into believing that Lucifer is good and that he's ultimately good. The Bible plainly teaches he's evil. And the Bible teaches in the book of Revelation, it's not going to end well for Lucifer nor his followers. Okay. But they are supremely deceived. But knowing why they believe the way they believe makes a lot of sense now. Now, having said that, this individual that wants to, this leader of the Satanic Temple that wants to host this event in a school in Pennsylvania after school, Okay. It's basically coming from that point of view that we're not doing anything wrong. This is our constitutional right. We have a right to do this. We're not doing anything wrong. Hey, it's perfectly okay. Now, let me read something here real quick that's in this article. Now, listen to, now, let me read this to you. Now, listen to this. It says, a video on the After School Satan's Club's website features a song titled My Pal Satan, which includes lyrics declaring, quote, Satan's not an evil guy. He wants you to learn and question why, or he wants you to have fun and be yourself. And by the way, there is no hell. The song also claims that, quote, Satan's not a scary guy. He wants you to share and be kind. Then it says, when all is said and done, Satan doesn't really actually exist. The song continues. He's an imaginary friend who can teach us how to live. Now, think about that. First, it says Satan is the good guy. He's not the bad guy. He wants you to be yourself. But then at the same time, they say, oh, but by the way, Satan is not real. He doesn't exist. Well, how can he not be real and doesn't exist, but yet he's teaching you, but then at the same time, he's not the bad guy, he's the good guy. And wait a minute, either he exists or he don't exist. So what they're actually teaching is atheism, and at the same time teaching in the belief in the supernatural. It makes no sense. It's a contradiction, but that's all on purpose. You understand? Now, I've dealt with the political edge, or them having the right to express this belief in the school. Now I'm going to deal with the spiritual side. Clearly, this is the enemy's attempt to deceive the young people. Clearly, because it says, I'm not the bad guy. I'm the good guy. And this coincides with what I just said previously about what Luciferians and the occultists and Satanists believe about Satan, i.e. Lucifer, that he's the good guy and that the God of the Bible is the bad guy. Because in order for one of the tactics of Satan, in order to deceive people, one of the tactics he uses is to make himself the good guy and to make Christians and God the bad guy. That's why it's so easy to persecute Christians. It's easy to persecute Christians because, hey, they're the bad guys, right? See, Satan works by deception. He's the ultimate deceiver. The ultimate deceiver. He works by deceptions and lies and misinformation. This is what this is. Classic deception. Oh, I'm not the bad guy. I'm a good guy. I just want you to be yourself. Live in sin, live in rebellion, do what you want to do. And it's all geared towards young people. All geared towards young people. It's all designed to get the young people's minds to prepare them for the New World Order, to prepare them for the worship of his son, the Antichrist, i.e. the beast, the man of sin. Huh? That's what that's all about. But I wanted to bring that out because it's high time believers have to stay alert. We have to stay alert to the tactics and devices of the enemy. And I know that this is taking place in Pennsylvania, but don't think that it might not take place in your own home. If those of you that are watching this video don't live in Pennsylvania or whatever, that it might not, don't think that this might not take place in your own home. It can take place anywhere. The enemy wants control over everyone. He's already the God of this world. But he doesn't have everyone's minds. He doesn't have everyone's minds. He has to get everyone's minds, okay? He has to deceive everyone. He has to deceive as many people as he possibly can. And he does not have everyone's minds, and he does not have all the young people's minds. So he has to work on it. And this is one of its methods on working on young people, by getting into the schools, using the Constitution as a way to say, I have a constitutional right to be here, okay, which is hard to argue, okay. And then once he finds that foothold there, then he can make his appeal. The individual can make their drive. They can make their appeal to the young people. We have an after-school special, a Satan after-school club. Satan's not the bad guy. He's the good guy. To get them on his side. He's the master deceiver. So I've given you the political point and a little bit of history, but I've also given you the spiritual point. So I just wanted to lay that out there. I wanted to bring that out there. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. God bless you all, and see you again.